Hey dolls, it's summer now and it's time to bring out all our sunscreens. So I've been testing out 10 Korean sunscreens that are invisible and that doesn't sting my eyes, because it is very important for me to find a sunscreen that doesn't sting my eyes, because I wear sunscreen every day, and if it stings my eyes, it's gonna be a disaster. I'll also show you guys each of their finishes, how they look out throughout the day, how they look like under makeup, their key skincare and sunscreen ingredients. And by the end of this video, I'll also share with you my top Korean sunscreen for every skin type, for every budget, and which sunscreens are fungal acne safe, because I know it's hard to find in a sunscreen. So before showing you all these amazing sunscreens, I'm going to share a very important tip when applying your sunscreen. So sunscreens should be applied as the last step of your morning skincare routine before you apply your makeup. And make sure you give your sunscreen a little time to sink into your skin before applying makeup, because makeup can dampen the effectiveness of your sunscreen. With tinted moisturizer, we'll be considering this as makeup. So this would be the last step in our routine. So sunscreen first and then your tinted moisturizer. A classic error I also usually see when applying sunscreen is applying it on damp skin, especially when you're swimming or when you're at the beach. So sunscreen, whether mineral or chemical, should always be applied on dry skin. And you'll also notice this because when you apply a mineral sunscreen on your skin, it wouldn't adhere to your skin properly. And chemical sunscreens need to interact with the top layer of your skin to absorb UV rays and protect you. So applying chemical sunscreen on wet skin can hinder this process. So when you're at the beach or you're sweating, just make sure to really dry your skin first before applying your sunscreen. So now that that's out of the way, let's start with the first sunscreen. This one I find is the most underrated Korean sunscreen, and I think that this deserves to be viral, especially if you have oily skin. I have not seen this so much on social media, but once I've tried it, I really like it on my oily skin. So this one is a Dr. HYALU-CICA Vegan Sun with SPF 50 plus PA+++++. So this one has a medium creamy weight and it gives you a little cooling sensation when you first apply it. It has a hint of an herb scent, I guess from rosemary oil, and that's my little con for it. But it feels so soothing on the skin, especially during the summer. The finish is almost matte with a little slight sheen to it. I would say demi-matte. So this sunscreen has niacinamide high up on the ingredient list, which we all know is great for brightening and anti-acne. And it also has several soothing ingredients that you'll find towards the end of the list, like kiwi fruit extract, hibiscus flower, Nelumbium speciosum flower extract, and its own CECA barrier complex containing 3 derivatives of Centella asiatica. Although these ingredients are not highly concentrated, I find this formulation very soothing on the skin. Just a note though, alcohol is in the top 5 skincare ingredients in this sunscreen. So if you have dry skin, I think that you would benefit more from the other sunscreens that I'll be featuring. But my makeup really applied so well on top of this sunscreen, and throughout the day, my skin was not oily. It was one of the few chemical SPFs that kept my oil and my moisture level more balanced. And as you can see on my 8-hour blotting sheet test, you can see that it dried down clear and has the least amount of oil leak on the sheet. So I would recommend this for people with normal to oily skin, but most especially if you have very oily skin. And I would also recommend this for people who are acne prone. So my next invisible sunscreen is this HARU Wonder Black Rice Moisture AIRYFIT Daily Sunscreen. This one also has SPF 50 plus PA+++++. This one has a thicker consistency, but once it's rubbed in onto your skin completely and dries down a little, it leaves a really great finish. It actually claims to have a velvet finish, and let me tell you, they are very spot on. This one looks like second skin. It has the perfect balance, not too dewy, not too matte. And as I've mentioned, I have oily combination skin. So when I was using this, I didn't have to use a moisturizer. I skipped my moisturizer because this sunscreen already gives me enough moisture. I also love the packaging of this sunscreen. It comes with a pump, so it's easier to dispense. So the star ingredient of this sunscreen is of course the fermented black rice extract. It also has niacinamide, which are powerful antioxidants and helps in evening out your skin tone and texture. It also has heart leaf extract to balance excess sebum and ceramide NP to strengthen the skin barrier and lock in moisture. This wears pretty well under makeup with no peeling, and after 2 hours, my face actually still looks pretty matte and fresh, thanks to the heart leaf extract in it. So I would recommend this sunscreen for all skin types. So my third invisible sunscreen is this SCINIC Super Mild Sun Essence with SPF 50 plus PA+++++. So since this is an essence, this has a very light consistency and it absorbs into my skin super quickly. It's super lightweight and it feels nothing on the skin. So the first time I used this, I actually added like one more finger length of this sunscreen because I thought I didn't cover my face entirely. But when I looked at my UV camera, I actually already put enough sunscreen onto my skin. That's how light it felt. There is absolutely no white cast. You would not be able to tell I'm wearing a sunscreen just by looking at my skin. This sunscreen is also non-greasy, and I would say that the finish is demi-matte. This sunscreen also wears really well under makeup. And honestly, I could consider this as a good primer as well because my makeup just laid super nicely when I use this sunscreen. So if you're going to an event or you just know that you'll be wearing a full face of heavy makeup, I think that this sunscreen is the best sunscreen to use during those occasions. The star ingredient of this sunscreen is green tea extract and Centella asiatica extract, which are great antioxidants, and it also has niacinamide. It also has adenosine for anti-inflammatory and panthenol for soothing the skin. This is also alcohol-free, fragrance-free, and essential oil-free, so I can recommend this sunscreen for all skin types, especially if you have sensitive skin. So now we're on our fourth invisible sunscreen, and this is the Round Lab Birch Juice Moisturizing Sunscreen with SPF 50 plus PA+++++. So this is an award-winning 2-in-1 moisturizer and sunscreen, and the #1 sunscreen in the Korean app HYALU. So this sunscreen applies just like a light lotion, and it leaves my skin with a subtle glow. If you have oily skin, you can also skip moisturizer as this can double up as your moisturizer for sure. So the star ingredient of this sunscreen is of course birch sap, which is great in hydrating your skin. It also has niacinamide, which is great for brightening and great for acne. It also has adenosine, which is a great anti-aging and firming ingredient, and also ascorbic acid, which is the purest form of vitamin C that can help fade hyperpigmentation, anti-aging. It also has ascorbic acid, which is the purest form of vitamin C that can help fade hyperpigmentation. It's also great for anti-aging and a great antioxidant. This sunscreen is also alcohol-free, so I could recommend this for people with normal skin type, but also for oily skin that is dehydrated and also for sensitive skin. I wore this for 3 hours and it didn't make me extra oily. It still has the same glow as I had the first time I tried it on. It's just very natural looking. So we are halfway there, and my fifth sunscreen is this Manyo Galactomy Moisture Sun Serum. This and the SCINIC sunscreen, when it comes to application, is pretty similar. I guess since it's a serum, it's very lightweight and it applies and glides on pretty quickly on the skin, just like the SCINIC sunscreen. If you're the kind of person who's always rushing to get out of the door, you just want to put your sunscreen like mindlessly, this is a great sunscreen for you. Just don't be like me who forgot the side of her nose. When I was reviewing my video, I was like, this is like the fastest I applied my sunscreen on my skin, but I have like a little white cream on the side of my nose. So anyways, this sunscreen has a skin-like finish, also worked great under makeup, and after 2 hours, my face does not look oily, but also not too matte. It just looks like a well-balanced, healthy skin. So the key ingredients of this sunscreen is, of course, galactomyces, which is great for anti-aging and brightening. It also has sedum cementosum, which provides deep moisture, and CICA for calming your skin. It also has anti-acne ingredients like niacinamide and lauric acid, also Centella asiatica extract, ceramide, and panthenol to soothe the skin and help strengthen your skin barrier. I would recommend this if you are looking for a sunscreen that would look great under makeup, and I would also recommend this for people with oily combination skin, or if you have oily but dehydrated skin. I also think that this is the second vegan sunscreen out of the bunch, so if you're looking for a vegan sunscreen, this is a great option to use. My sixth invisible sunscreen is this ISNTREE Purple Protector Onion NEWPAIR sunscreen with SPF 40 PA+++. So this one has the lowest SPF out of the 10 sunscreens that I have tried. It only has SPF 40 and it only has PA+++ instead of the 4 pluses. And speaking of SPF, let's just dive into what it means. So SPF means sun protection factor using this equation. So take the time you would normally burn in the sun without protection. So 20 minutes will normally produce redness on a light-skinned individual. So multiply this number by SPF of your product. So for example, with an SPF 15, multiply it with 20 minutes of sun time. That would equal to 300. So this is how many minutes you can stay in the sun without burning. So 300 minutes divided by 1 hour or 60 minutes equals 5 hours of sun protection without sunburn. But to be on the safe side, it's always recommended to reapply your sunscreen every 2 hours, especially if you're sweating or you're swimming, because this can easily wear off your sunscreen. So back to this sunscreen, this is also the only sunscreen that has a tint to it. This one actually has a purple tint in it. When it comes to application, this sunscreen actually has a drag to it when you apply it, maybe because it dries super quickly. And looking at my UV camera, at first I thought I applied it evenly, but if you look closely, there's parts that looks thinner than other parts. So the purple tint in this sunscreen is supposed to neutralize your yellow undertones. And looking at my before and after, I think it did that a little bit. And when it comes to finish, this sunscreen actually gave my skin a dewy finish. When I used the sunscreen just inside the house, my T-zone got oily after 2 hours. But when I used this outside, this made me really oily. The star ingredient of this sunscreen is of course 5% red onion extract and multivita complex, which helps reduce and soothe blemishes and evens out your skin tone. It also has allantoin and heart leaf extract to hydrate and soothe irritated skin. So I would recommend this to people with dry skin, as this can really give you a very dewy finish. As an oily girly, I wouldn't recommend this, especially during the summer, as this can really make your skin look very oily. To be honest, this is not a bad sunscreen. I also like that they included an onion extract, which actually is a great skincare ingredient. But for my skin type, I am not a fan of this sunscreen because this really made me very oily. And I didn't like the fact that this one has only SPF 40 in it. Usually for every day, especially during the summer, I'm looking for sunscreen that has at least SPF 50 in it. Now to our seventh sunscreen, almost there. This is the Purito Daily Soft Touch Sunscreen with SPF plus PA++++. So this sunscreen is actually a hybrid sunscreen. So it combines the properties of a chemical and physical sun cream. So this claims to have a matte finish on the skin, but it did the opposite on my skin. So when it comes to application, it starts out with a sticky feeling when first applied, and it's a bit tacky, but after 2 to 3 minutes, it settles into a glowy finish. This one is actually one of the glowiest sunscreen out of the 10. So really far from a matte finish. And when I looked at the star ingredients, it really made sense to me because this one has ceramides to hydrate and strengthen the skin barrier. It also has ACNE extract and panthenol that hydrates. So it increases the level of moisture in your skin. So mostly very hydrating skincare ingredients in this formulation. And my makeup really applied well on top of this sunscreen, but after 2 hours, my makeup just kept on sliding on my face. You can see my foundation streaks on my nose, which is the oiliest part of my face. So not a great sunscreen under makeup, but if you have very dry skin, very dehydrated skin, I think that you would love this sunscreen. So 8 on the list, this is the Skin 1004 Madagascar HYALU-CICA Water Fit Sunscreen with SPF 50 PA+++++. So this is a unique watery sun serum with a combination of hyaluronic acid and sciatica from Madagascar. And this sunscreen is super easy to apply. It really glided super smoothly on my skin and gave me a satin finish. Every time I use this sunscreen, I love that my skin always feels super soft to the touch. And as you can tell, I'm almost running out of it because this is my current favorite everyday sunscreen. What I love the most about this sunscreen is even when you're reapplying this sunscreen every 2 hours, it never feels heavy, it never feels greasy, and I find that it doesn't clog my pores. Based on my experience, this is the most well-balanced sunscreen that I have ever tried. And you can actually see it on my blotting sheet test. You can see that it pretty much kept its consistency throughout the 8 hours, and there's not a lot of oil leakage on the blotting sheet. The star ingredient of this sunscreen is of course the hyaluronic acid and sciatica from Madagascar. It also has niacinamide, and it also has ginkgo leaf extract, which helps to treat acne, eczema, and skin inflammation. And as you can already tell, this is my favorite everyday sunscreen. I always stock up with this sunscreen. Currently, I have 4 of this because I have it in my bag, I have it in my vanity, I have it in my bedroom. Can't live without this sunscreen. This, I think, is a very well-rounded sunscreen, and I would recommend this sunscreen for all skin types. So my second to the last sunscreen is this IUNIK Centella Calming Daily Sunscreen. This sunscreen has a lightweight, watery texture, and it left me with a glowy finish. My makeup also applied so well on top of this sunscreen, and after 2 hours, I was still left with that glow on my face. As you can tell on my video, my face is extra glowy, but it's not because of the sunscreen. It's because on that day, I used the Patrick Ta blush, and it's very glowy. That blush really gave me a very glowy finish. But surprisingly, even with that heavy glow, my makeup stayed put and it felt really lightweight throughout the day. The sunscreen is formulated with organic chemical filters, and the star ingredient on this is 49% sciatica extract that calms the skin suffering from UV exposure, and 1000 ppm beta-glucan that strengthens the skin barrier. It also has adenosine that boosts the production of collagen, and of course niacinamide. And I find that every Korean sunscreen that I have tried always have niacinamide in it. So I would recommend this sunscreen for people with normal skin type and also for people with dry and dehydrated skin type. So the last sunscreen that I'll be featuring is of course the OG. This is the Beauty of Joseon sunscreen. And I feel like a lot of people has been introduced to Korean sunscreen by this brand, Beauty of Joseon. And to be honest, the first time I used this, I thought this is the best sunscreen ever, especially since the sunscreens that I have been using has always been Western sunscreen. So me switching to Korean sunscreen just blew my mind. The texture of this sunscreen is light and creamy, and when you're blending the sunscreen in, there's a bit of a hydrating, watery feeling, but it goes away once the product is fully blended in. Again, I have more of an oily skin type, so this can double up as my moisturizer, but I guess if you have more of a drier skin, you need a moisturizer before using this. When it comes to finish, this gave me a satin finish, almost like a glass skin look. The star ingredient of this sunscreen is of course the rice extract, but it also has niacinamide and green tea leaf extract. My only con about this sunscreen is because I have oily skin, just within 2 hours inside my house with no heavy activities, this can easily make my skin look oily. And as you can tell, this is almost done, but I did not end up repurchasing the sunscreen because of that one con. And since being exposed to other Korean sunscreens, I have found a lot of sunscreen that work better on my skin type. So speaking of better sunscreen, I will be doing kind of like an awarding on to which sunscreen I find is the best. So for my skin type, personally, I find that the Skin 1004 Madagascar HYALU-CICA Fit sunscreen is the best everyday sunscreen, especially for my oily combination skin. And as you can tell, I have 2 in my makeup room and other 2 somewhere in this house. So I really love that it's very well balanced. I love that this sunscreen gives me enough moisture so I don't have to apply moisturizer whenever I use this, but also this didn't make me more oily. It just really made my skin have this well balanced finish, and I love that it has a good SPF. It has SPF 50 plus, PA++++, so it has a great protection as well. This 2 sunscreen is actually #1 in Korea. Sometimes this one is #1 in Wahe, and sometimes the Skin 1004 is #1 in Wahe. I also really love this Round Lab sunscreen, and I see the hype and I see why this is also very, very popular in Korea. But I just love how well balanced this sunscreen is. So this is my winner for my skin type. For sunscreen that is best under makeup, I will be awarding it to this SCINIC Super Mild Sun Essence. This one is not just great under makeup. I feel like this could be a great primer as well. My makeup just really laid super well on top of this sunscreen. In terms of sunscreen that I would recommend for each skin type, I have made this chart so you can see which sunscreen is good for which skin type. So I hope that this is very helpful to you. And you can also see here their finishes so you can choose which finish you like. I know fungal acne safe sunscreen is such a great big deal for a lot of people, especially if you are very sensitive to having fungal acne. It's really hard to find a sunscreen that is fungal acne safe. So I have plugged in each of the sunscreen's ingredient onto this app. Well, not an app, a site, the folliculitisscout.com, and I have filtered sunscreens that only has one fungal acne trigger. It's really hard to find a sunscreen that has 0 fungal acne trigger because there's always going to be an ingredient that is needed in the sunscreen so that it can be emulsified. So there's always gonna be an emulsifier ingredient that can be a fungal acne trigger. So these are the sunscreens that only has one fungal acne trigger. The first one is the SCINIC Enjoy Super Mild Sun Essence. The second one is Skin 104 Madagascar Centella HYALU-CICA Water Fit Sun Serum. And then the third one is the Round Lab Birch Juice Moisturizing Sunscreen. So this sunscreen has this one fungal acne trigger skincare ingredient, which is the polyglycerol 3 methylglucose desterate. So this is a vegetable-based emulsifier that helps the oily and watery parts of the formula in your sunscreen to mix well together. And I find that in low concentration, this is still safe for fungal acne. I also found only one fungal acne trigger with the Purito Daily Soft Touch Sunscreen. It has glycerol stearate, which occurs naturally in our body and used as a food additive. So I would still deem this sunscreen as fungal acne safe, but I'm still an advocate for patch testing. So for every new skincare that you would try, even though it's a sunscreen, make sure that you always patch test before using them. If cost is a big deciding factor for you, I find that the most budget-friendly Korean sunscreen is this SCINIC Super Mild Sun Essence. So another award for the SCINIC sunscreen. So this is by far the most affordable at $13.99 per 50 ml. And as I've mentioned, this is really great under makeup. And plus that it's also very, very affordable. I also have to note that all of the sunscreens are chemical sunscreens, so they don't contain the chalky minerals that lend physical sunscreen a chalky white tint to it. And you can find all the sunscreens at stalvana.com. This is where I got all of the sunscreens, and you can use my code INF10doll. So a great tip, because shipping takes a little time, make sure that after watching this video, pick your favorite and then order 3 or 4 at a time, because with sunscreen you have to use it every day. So just to make sure that you always have your favorite sunscreen with you, make sure to stock up. So I hope that you find this video helpful in finding the best sunscreen that is best suited for your skin type and your skin concern. And if it did, please don't forget to like this video. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll always be updated once a new video is out. Thank you so much, dolls, again for watching. I'll see you on my next one.